Welcome to Unforbidden Truth. I'm Andrew. On this week's episode, I'll be speaking to Tyler Hadler. Tyler is convicted of attempted murder and voluntary manslaughter. On September 23rd, 2008, Tyler agreed to sell weed to Patrick Smith, Aaron Campbell, and another man. The three knocked Tyler over and took the weed from him. Witnesses told police they saw Tyler get into his car, chase Patrick, and pin him up against a brick garage, backing the car up, and hitting him again. Patrick died at the hospital. Tyler was arrested and charged with murder. He pled guilty and was convicted of attempted murder and manslaughter, receiving a 14-year sentence. Here's my interview with Tyler Hadler.
Hello, this is a prepaid call from
Tyler.
an inmate at the Ross Correctional Institution.
What was your childhood like growing up?
I'd say it's pretty average. I had two parents that was entrepreneurs that started from, I guess, a trailer park and worked themselves up to the middle class. It was fairly good. You know, I feel like all childhoods have their ups and downs, I guess.
Did you have any siblings or like any cousins or friends you played with growing up?
Yeah, I had quite a few friends, but I have a little sister. She's a couple of years younger than me. And I have a brother, which is 15 years younger than me. So, yeah.
Did you suffer any type of abuse or trauma growing up?
Yeah, I've suffered probably from 5 to, I don't know, probably about 17 of physical abuse, mental abuse from my father.
Do you have a
Teens
relationship
and
with him now?
Yeah, I do. He's probably, it's weird because he'd beat my ass one second, and then the next second he'd come in crying, loving me and being affectionate.
Were you close with your mother and father growing up?
I'd say I was close with my dad for the most part because he's the one that took me to sporting events like football, and my mom, she was mostly there for my sister, and she's kind of introverted, and she would I don't know, like she was there but she wasn't. She's always been in her own little world.
So you mentioned that you played sports in school. What was your behavior like in school, primarily in middle school and high school years?
I was diagnosed with ADHD and ADD, so when I took my meds, I was quiet, calm, to myself. But then when I didn't take my meds, I was jumping off the walls. I never really got in a lot of trouble. I would get into some trouble, but nothing crazy. I got fairly good grades for the most part. I've always been kind of intelligent, so.
Did you engage in any type of criminal activity prior to the case that landed you in prison?
I mean, yeah, I was selling drugs and stuff since probably middle school. That from pills to whatever I can get my hand on to make some money. That was pretty much the most, like, criminal, breaking into houses, small stuff, nothing that my dad would find out. I was always scared of Pops finding out.
So you never were out like committed violent crimes or anything of the sort? It was just small petty crimes?
Yeah, petty crimes.
Have you been diagnosed with any mental illnesses?
PTSD, and then depression. I got anxiety disorders that I take meds for now. Then ADHD.
Let's talk about the crimes you're in prison for. You're serving a 14-year prison sentence for voluntary manslaughter. Can you walk me through the events that led up to everything the day that you caught that charge?
Yeah. So I was, during this time period, I was selling weed, and I I had a buddy of mine that was calling me up, and I was busy helping my dad fix something at the house, and he kept calling and calling. I kept putting him off. Well, then I finally got a chance to get away. So I had to go get my check, and I had some other stuff I had to do. So I went to go pretty much sell him some weed, and as I'm doing it, or as I meet up with him, and instead of going to his house, because that's what he said, that he didn't want his wife to know, so we go into his garage, which later I found out it wasn't his garage, it was just an abandoned garage. So I go in, and I'm weighing out the weed, and as I'm doing it, I give him two of the ounces, and as I'm weighing out the other two, I get hit. I get kicked in the face. I'm weighing it on the ground for some weird reason. I don't even know why. Oh, the table was offset, so I couldn't get the scale to work right. And when that happened, everything went black for a second. And when I came to, I just was landing on the ground. So I get up and I grab the weed from him. And that's where one of the victims that I got the attempted murder on, he pulled a gun. I dropped the weed, and when they left, well, there was three of them. So when the last one, when he left, that's when I was going to my car, and then he came back, and I forget what he grabbed. He grabbed something, and so that's when I actually jumped in my car, and I take off chasing them. And I didn't know where they went, so I seen them in my rearview mirror. And I turned around, and I went the opposite direction on a one-way street. And I turned on the street they ran down. And when I turned, I was going probably about 35, 40 miles per hour. And one of the guys was in the middle of the road. So I swerved to miss him, and I ended up hitting someone else. I went through the fence, and he got pinned up against like a garage. And then by then, the cops came, and I got arrested.
As soon as you hit him and pinned him against the fence, what were you thinking? What were you saying? What was going through your mind?
I couldn't believe I actually hit one of them. Like, it kind of surprised me. Like, I instantly jumped in my car and reversed so I could, because I knew he was hurt. Like, I knew, because half his body was under the car. So when I reversed, I got cut on the fence, and I got out to see if he was all right. And then one of the guys, the one that had the gun, ran up, and I had my dog with me, and my dog jumped out, started growling the guy, and he ended up, I guess, getting whatever off the victim and running. And I was just, I didn't know what to think. I don't know. I was going crazy. There's a guy, it was in broad daylight, so there's 20, 30 people yelling stuff in the middle of the road at me. And I just know that I hurt someone severely, and my main thing was I wanted to get them help. But when they robbed me, I guess, I don't know what happened to my cell phone. It was just missing. So I couldn't call no one. I couldn't call for help. I couldn't call no ambulance. And I actually didn't find out he passed away till probably about 7 or 8 hours later. It's when the detectives talked to me.
When the officers got on scene, were you immediately placed under arrest?
Yeah, or they had me in the paddy wagon probably for about 3 hours in the street while I don't know what they was doing because I couldn't see anything. I had my dog with me, so every time they would open the door, he would get all defensive and growling, and they was kind of scared of him, I guess.
How did you feel after you were arrested? Did you think that you might possibly spend the rest of your life in prison?
I mean, yeah, but no at the same time, because when I first got arrested, they told me that they was homicide detectives, and I told them I needed an attorney, which that's what I was taught as a kid, I guess. If you ever get in trouble, just asking for an attorney. Don't say nothing to them. So when I'm sitting in jail, there's people showing up at my parents' house with guns, threatening them, threatening my life, threatening my little brother's life, which was 3 years old, threatening my sister's life, and all that. So my main focus was about them, and I actually made bail a couple days later, because my grandpa, and I had a feeling like I knew I was coming to prison when I was out on bail. My thing was I didn't know how long. So I mean, I knew. I don't know. I thought I was going away forever.
So you're ultimately charged and convicted, and you were sentenced to 14 years in prison. Being you were 21 years old at the time, and I think that would make you 35 when you'd be getting out.
How did I ultimately feel?
Yeah.
To be honest with you, it was a relief to a certain extent, because I knew actually what I was facing. I didn't have a life sentence over my head. I wasn't facing 65 to life. Like when I first took my plea deal, I took an open plea, which I was facing a maximum of 20. So that kind of took some of the relief out of it, knowing that I wasn't going to be in prison my whole life.
You've been incarcerated going on 12 years now. What does an average day consist of for you?
Mostly consists of sitting in the cell and watching TV, and I read a lot of books. They got Sinclair Community College that I participate in. Then we go outside for a couple hours a day. I usually go out, work out, or play basketball. Then when I'm in the day room, I usually cook. 80% of the day is spent in the cell.
Do you have a paid job in there?
No.
I believe you're going to be released in about 2 to 3 years, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Do you have a plan for when you get out? Do you know where you're going to go, what you're going to do, what your goals and ambitions are in life?
My overall goal has always been to become the best version of myself. And with that, I'm pretty much going to be, I have some family, my aunt I plan on living with. And I got a couple of jobs that as of right now, that I could go to, like landscaping is the main one. I have another family friend that has an asphalt company. But my overall goal is to start my own business and dog training and dog grooming, and then eventually opening up other small businesses that have to do with real estate and property maintenance and landscaping and all that. And my overall goals is, my main overall goal is not to come back and not separate myself from my family and be there for them, because that's who really needs me, and be there for my grandparents and everybody else.
What do you think needs to be done to ensure that doesn't happen, you going back to jail or prison?
I'd say sobriety would be the number one thing, even though I've never really been addicted to a lot of hard drugs or anything, but just staying clean and doing whatever hoops I have to jump through with the parole board. That's the number one thing. A lot of people come back on parole violations for some of the simplest stuff. I feel like that's avoidable. And just staying away from I guess the bad crowds and focusing more on what really matters, and that's my family.
Before we conclude this interview, is there anything that you'd like to talk about that we haven't covered yet?
Not really off the top of my head. I'm kind of, I don't know, my mind's going a million different places. None that I can think of, but I'll just No.
That was my interview with Tyler Hadler. Don't forget to check out my Patreon, patreon.com/unforbiddentruth. You can get access to additional interviews, access to a virtual true crime gallery, and much more. Thank you for listening.
Unforbidden.